We are Black American members of the National Academy of Medicine,
the premier health science organization in our nation.
We are scientists,
physicians,
healthcare professionals,
and public health experts.
We are also sisters,
mothers, wives, and daughters.
We are brothers,
fathers,
husbands, and sons.
We are your neighbor, the person in line at the grocery store checkout, the person sitting next to you in church. We are members of the Black community.
Many of us have fought our way into healthcare professions specifically to care for our community.
Many of us have devoted our careers to exposing racism in healthcare.
All of us have focused our careers on improving health for all.
That is why we support the COVID-19 vaccine, and we encourage you to get vaccinated.
Trust in government does not come easily for our community. Too often our health has been ignored and even abused.
It is not surprising that polls show that many Black Americans are hesitant to get vaccinated.
We understand why.
But COVID-19 is very serious.
And it has a devastating impact on our community.
We have come through so much over the years.
Now we are facing another life-threatening challenge.
We must do what we have always done.
We must choose to do what is necessary for our community's survival.
As health professionals, we understand the science.
As members of the Black community, we understand your distrust.
We have reviewed the research.
Some of us have participated in developing the vaccines, designing the studies, and monitoring the results.
And we are confident the research was done correctly.
Many of us have already received the vaccine.
The rest of us will get it when our turn comes.
We encourage you to claim your place in line to get vaccinated.
Do it for yourselves.
Do it for your loved ones.
Do it for our community.
Do it because we should not tolerate one more preventable death.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. Brought to you by SCDHEC. Visit scdhec.gov for testing and vaccination sites. SCDHEC. Healthy people, healthy communities. In it together, SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council presenting Wellness Wednesday every week on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Agape Counseling and Training Services. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, visit Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. The Comet Bus System, offering free rides to get your COVID vaccine. Don't miss your shot. Visit catchthecomet.gov. Javis Financial Services, with over 20 years of experience. Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. Honest, professional, reliable computer sales and service. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID from SCDHEC. In it together, SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Services, the Comet Bus System, Javis Financial Services, Computers Unique, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Good Thursday afternoon. I am Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. Listen, are you behind on your rent or late on your mortgage? Are you concerned about what to do and what your rights are? Well, that's a question many people have asked due to COVID. And the new stimulus bill, the American Rescue Plan, has verbiage in place pertaining to just this issue. And we'll find out all about that today from Attorney Eddye Lane with Lane Law. Edie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy to be here with you, Tre. And just let me just say thank you so much for spreading all the good news in the community. And this is just a wonderful program. So happy to be a part.
Thank you so much for the kind words. We'll come right back with Eddye Lane next on Coping with COVID. But first, your COVID community updates. South Carolina state senators passed a proposal requiring all schools to provide in-person classes 5 days a week. 54 of the state's 79 school districts are already back to 5 days of in-person learning. All but 6 plan to offer them by April 12th. Pfizer says their vaccine is safe for kids as young as 12 years old. While it's now only authorized for teens starting at 16, their study of over 2,012 through 15-year-olds proved successful. This, they say, is key to getting students ready for back to school in the fall. Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech plans to seek approval in the coming weeks to give the vaccine to 12-year-olds. Finally, South Carolina State University says students will have in-person learning beginning the fall semester. Freshmen will move into dorms August 12th, followed by returning students August 13th, with classes starting on August 18th. School President James Clark says while they are excited about the announcement, they will have COVID precautions in place. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date information about times, dates, and location for COVID testings, vaccines, and flu shots. Visit scdhec.gov for more information. Now, if you still need to get tested and want to get an appointment and results in 48 hours, you can visit gogettested.com. There you can make an appointment, find a location, and again, get your results in 48 hours in several states, not only in South Carolina. The DHEC Care Line is up and running. It's also available if you need information about testing, vaccines, organizing a COVID screening in your community or at your event, and transportation to get a test. Now, speaking of transportation, Richland and Clarendon County paramedics are offering in-person COVID screening. Call 911 for information. If you remember, we talked to Congressman Clyburn a couple of weeks ago on Wellness Wednesday, and he said they're also working on getting in-person COVID vaccinations. Also, we'll let you know about that as that becomes available. Speaking of COVID vaccinations, they are available throughout the state of South Carolina. As a matter of fact, that information will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. So please make sure you check the bottom of the screen for the many places you can not only get tested, but get a vaccination. A couple of that we will mention is Lexington Medical Center. They have COVID vaccinations. Also, all veterans are being vaccinated at the VA. Kroger pharmacies are offering COVID vaccines. Check the screen for details there. CVS pharmacies are also offering COVID vaccinations, also in Target stores that have a CVS pharmacy. Now, if you want information about online registration for seniors, you can go to Get Set Up. If you need help making your COVID vaccination appointment, free classes are available. They can visit that website or make that phone call. Also, if you want to get your vaccinations, you can ride the Comet bus system for free. The folks with the Comet will actually be joining us next Thursday right here on Coping with COVID to tell us about that and all of their other updates. Now, back to some other locations that are offering COVID vaccinations. Brooklyn Baptist Church has a vaccine clinic Monday through Friday and Sunday. You can make an appointment, as you see on the screen, at Lexington Medical Center or call 803-739-3363. The NAACP Housing Assistance Program is still up and running. You can get information for landlords, mortgage companies, tenants, and of course, the South Carolina Bar Association and SC Legal Services have that toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. And then in Richland County, their rental assistance program opens in just a few days, April 5th. Go to richlandcountysc.gov for more information. Go there now, get all of the paperwork you need to get ready to apply for those monies, which of course begin on April the 5th. Now, of course, today we're talking to Attorney Eddye Lane that will give us some updates and information that you can take going into all of those funding opportunities, what's available and what your rights are for renters and homeowners. Now, back to the PSAs. The City of Columbia are continuing their 6-month payment plan for anyone in arrears with their water bills. They also have payment assistance up to 75%. And if you need help with online working and online schooling, people are still doing that right now. Rashonda Pratt has an amazing YouTube channel with all the tips that you may want to have. The Affordable Care Act, the ACA, Obamacare, has open enrollment extended. Once again, it was May 15th. Now it's August 15th. That's right. You've got until August 15th to register for health care. Rosalind Goodwin with the South Carolina Hospital Association was on the show last month and will be back on in the coming weeks to tell us about all of the new updates. She says there are even more tax credits available and more ways to qualify for little or no premiums. The Black Lives Matter Scholarship Fund is still up and running. They've got about $3 million to give to African Americans, particularly those who are transgender, single parents and guardians, and those formerly incarcerated. If you need more information, you can see that website, Black Lives Matter Survival Fund. Go there and see if you can qualify for one of those $1,000 scholarships. I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. We're streaming live on the Tailor Made Production Facebook page. That's the home of Coping with COVID. Would you please go over there and hit like and share and follow us also. So not only you'll get an update when to watch Coping with COVID, which is Wednesday through Friday at 2 p.m., you can also get all of your COVID-related updates. Now, we're also streaming live on YouTube. Want to say hi to everyone watching on YouTube and ask you to please hit that subscribe button. We would love for you to do that. Want to say hi to Patricia Hennigan, who is the chair of the South Carolina South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus. Hey there, Chair Hennigan. Thank you so much for joining us. And please, for you and for you too, to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses, because this is such an important show. Before we do that, I want to remind you about the Dash for Good Health Southern Soul Cookbook. This is such an amazing cookbook. It is easy to read, even like me, if you're like me and you're not really a big cook. Easy to read, very good. These are recipes that you would use anyway, that you would eat anyway. It's a Southern cookbook, but it's got healthier alternatives. If you want it, you can get it for absolutely free, and you can get a Coping with COVID face mask. All you have to do is post in the chat, I want a Dash for Good Health, and we'll inbox you, get your mailing address, and we'll mail it out to you. It's the Dash for Good Health Southern Style Cookbook from SCDHEC in it together, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, and of course, us here at Coping with COVID. Listen, if your income has been affected by COVID, or you're concerned about your rent or your mortgage, this is the show for you. And you're not alone. In the last 12 months during the pandemic, it's been 12 months, can you believe it? 42% of African Americans and 49% of Latinx renters did not know if they could pay their next month's rent. This is numbers that are 2 times the amount of white renters at 22%. But it's not a racial issue. We don't have to make it that, because it's a big issue for everybody. 30 to 40 million people were at risk of losing their homes without significant input or help from the federal government. There was a housing crisis, ladies and gentlemen, before 2020, and 2020 just made it, like many things for Black and brown people, worse. But you do have rights, and you do have options. And Attorney Eddye Lane is here, and she specializes in helping people navigate those choices. Edie, thank you so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. We appreciate you, beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, listen, President Biden, when people were out shopping on Saturday and doing whatever they were doing, he was doing the executive orders and extending a lot of the protections under the CARES Act. In fact, I was a little afraid that some of my clients might not have been able to take advantage, because a lot of things sunset, at least for bankruptcy clients on Saturday. It was a deadline. So there were lots of extensions for that. It was just amazing. So I said, okay, Joe is working on Saturday for us. So lots of good things out there.
Well, that's great. And I want to talk about that. So you're saying that the moratorium, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the moratorium in just a minute. The deadline was Saturday. It would have been Saturday.
There were a lot of things that would have expired on Saturday. In particular, the one I was talking about was the extension for people who are in bankruptcy already. And bankruptcy is a way for people to reorganize their debts and protect themselves from creditors, from foreclosure, eviction, etc. And so normally what happens is that a person can be in a plan for 5 years. Well, if you take 2020, and part of the plan is that you have to make your payments just like any other debt, you continue to pay your trustee in your bankruptcy. Well, COVID basically threw a lot of people off of their plan. And so they said, well, what do? We have lost a year now in the plan. So they allowed bankruptcy debtors to extend their plan periods by another 24 months. Ended on March 27th. Yeah, so it helps them keep their payment lower, extend the period out, especially because a lot of people, even some are still unemployed, because some of the industries are still not back up and running. So that was very helpful. In fact, I called one of the trustee workers and just say, "Oh, I wish that thing was extended." She says, "Oh, it was extended Saturday."
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so I just found that out on Monday. So that was great.
So basically, Edie, you're saying, and I hear a little bit of feedback. So if you can turn down your volume, I don't know why I hear feedback because I know you've got your earbuds in. But so you're basically saying that anyone who is in bankruptcy has an additional 24 months to under that plan, whatever the plan was that they were in.
Right. They have to go and have their plan amended. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. They have to have the plan amended to do that. And so the courts are certainly allowing that. As a matter of fact, I'm working on one today. And that gives, especially if they're coming in and they're behind on the mortgage already, and they have to catch that up in that plan. So this is really helpful to a lot of people. Of course, nobody wants to be in for 7 years, but that's much better than being homeless and being under stress with that monthly budget.
Well, listen, since we're already talking about bankruptcy, let's just jump to it. So when you're you're talking about people that are in bankruptcy. So, and like I said, we were going to talk about this a little bit later, but is bankruptcy an option for people who are trying to escape eviction or foreclosure?
Well, I always recommend bankruptcy as a last resort. And I think that people should look at other programs that are available for them first. Last year, there were so many different rulings from different states, different counties even. You could live in one place and be subject to eviction and live in another place, and you had protection for special COVID rules. So the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, jumped in. I had never known them to come in and put out some blanket rule like that affected the housing. But the basis was that it's a health risk to have people evicted and out and about. And so therefore, that would have sunset as well. And that's been extended until June of this year. So the CDC says no evictions for non-payment of rent.
Now, all right. So let's stop there. And you're right. I thought that was interesting too when the CDC stepped in, because like you said, that's the Centers for Disease Control. So you just don't correlate the CDC with rent and mortgage. But you're saying they said it's a health risk for folks to be just, with no place to live.
Right.
And if you think about it, that's true.
That is true. And that's the same basis that our Supreme Court issued an order last time to say this is a health issue. This is not about trying to beat up landlords or mortgage companies, et cetera. This is a health issue. And of course, every Monday in Richland County, there are foreclosures, there are evictions almost at every magistrate's office. So it could have been quite horrendous without that protection.
Yeah, we're talking to Attorney Eddye Lane with the law firm of Eddye Lane Law, and we're talking to her today about rentals and mortgages and how you can be protected. So you're saying, Edie, then that the extended CDT moratorium for evictions, that means what? Folks have until June, you say?
Yes, but there are lots of there are some conditions. So this is just not, you just can't decide, okay, I'm not paying my rent because the CDC said I had until June.
Right.
So there are some restrictions. So they talk about a covered person. Who's a covered person? Well, one, you have to submit to your landlord a document under penalty of perjury saying this is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. One is that you have to have used your best efforts to try to get government assistance or some type of assistance for your housing. So I'm going to say if you go to some type of agency and you're trying to get assistance or you're applying for housing with your public housing agency, get some proof. Get the name of the person you spoke to, the day and the time, and document those things because you have to show that as proof. It's one of those things in order to qualify for the moratorium. So it's not just automatic. You just can't roll up on the landlord and go like, oh, you can't evict me because the CDC said so. Also, there's a limit, but I'm very impressed with the limit. The limit allows a couple up to earning $198,000 that this could apply to. and an individual up to 99,000. So of course, if you make more than that, they're not worried about you. The other thing is that if you're unable to make the full rental payment, they are looking for you to pay something. So try to make a good faith effort to pay at least a partial payment. And folks need to understand this is not a forgiveness of that rent. You're still going to owe that rent. So, sometimes we have
just got some time. You've just got some time before you have
you just got some time. You still have to pay it. So, if you can pay it, pay it. Don't go and blow it on something else just because the CDC has given you this little breather.
Right.
Yeah. And also you have to show that this eviction would possibly make you homeless, meaning you don't have any other place to go. So a few more restrictions. You do have to have all those things in the document. Some people may have difficulty drafting that particular document. I would certainly say reach out to help agencies around your community. Also, I would say South Carolina Legal Services. I work with them on a private attorney involvement panel. So that's a wonderful organization who will help folks who are indigent and cannot afford an attorney for their priority list of things. And in homelessness is at the top of their list.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Want to say hi to Deborah Williams. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. Please post and share this information out because so many people are dealing with rental issues, mortgage issues, and this is great information that they need to know. The first thing is that folks do have until June. The CDC has extended the moratorium against eviction until June. As Edie said, you just have to show that you've tried to get some help, that you've tried to make an effort, and that you don't have any place else to go. So on piggybacking on that, Edie, now are landlords willing to work with you on this? And
well, the landlords, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, is it easier for like a single person landlord or with a big company?
Well, I don't know if it makes a lot of difference. I think that, first of all, the CDC rules. So they have to work with you if you meet all of those qualifications.
Right.
And I would also say communicate with the landlord. Let the landlord know what's going on. Don't just duck and dodge and say something or try to work something out with that particular landlord. That's just the best measure. And of course, writing is always better than conversation many times.
You want to have something documented, correct?
Something documented. I'm out of work right now. I do plan to pay, etc. I would like to exercise my rights under the CDC moratorium. Something, but some landlords will work, it's just according to which type of landlord it is. There are some who are just straight out, they want the money, and that's just the bottom line. And of course, on the other end, you do have to understand, they have to upkeep the place and they just can't house everybody for free. So, but I believe that there are some appropriations for them to assist them so they're not also going bankrupt.
Right. Maxine Moses is watching. She says she's given us the number for South Carolina Legal Services if you need some information, or just like Edie said, if you want to get some of that paperwork done and you have a financial challenge, 888-346-5592. Thank you, Maxine. Also, Alex Wright asked just what I was asking. I was thinking the same thing, Alex. How does this work for the landlord? How do they get paid? Edie, and I'll say to Alex, I know with that NAACP Navigator program, they say that they're helping not only mortgage companies, they're helping landlords also, not only renters and homeowners, but landlords also. Do you know, Edie, is the CDC covered and are they covering landlords under this moratorium? Thank you, Alex, for your question.
Thank you. I'm not sure if the funds are coming from the CDC. More than likely, it's coming from maybe whichever federal organization has backed that landlord. There are some multi-housing complexes that are federally backed. Their loans are. So those funds could come from there, or it could possibly come from HUD. But I believe that there is some appropriation under the CARES Act that was extended to provide that, because you just can't expect the landlord to just absorb all of that cost.
Right, right. And that's the thing about this particular situation with COVID. It hit everybody. You know, people weren't working. People couldn't get, I mean, you just couldn't get money no matter what end of the spectrum you were on. So it was challenging. Thank you again, Alex, so much for your question. We're talking to Attorney Eddye Lane with Lane Law. You see her number there. If you want more information about what she is talking about, she's got 30 years of experience in consumer law, bankruptcy. You can see her information there. So please give her a call if you want more information. We've been talking about your rights as a homeowner and a renter. We were talking about the CDC moratorium to stop evictions, and it recently was extended, like Edie said, for till June. Now, does this cover both rent and mortgage, Edie?
No, this moratorium is just for evictions, for pretty much for tenants. There are other laws that protect folks from foreclosures. So basically, under the CARES Act, there was protection for persons who had federally backed mortgages. And so that has been extended. That was getting ready to sunset. And so a lot of people don't know what type of mortgage they have. So you pretty much have either a conventional type of loan, or you may have that VA or another government-backed loan. So if you have a computer and you just do not know, if you think you have a Freddie Mac or a Fannie Mae, I don't know if you're even familiar with those names, but you can go to and Google Fannie Mae lookup or Freddie Mac lookup and go in and put in the name of your mortgage company. And you can find out whether you're on that list. The VA, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's great information to know, because girl, I'm sitting up here thinking, I mean, somebody just asked me yesterday. I was like, I don't know. Look, I just know I just pay it every month to the bank. I don't know who has a loan. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, so you can find out. You can go online and find out. And also, if you have a copy of your note, you can also look, because in there, if there's some default, it'll say who has to get notice or what may happen. May mention HUD, etc., and you'll know you have a federally backed loan. So if that's the case, you are entitled to possibly a forbearance, but you cannot have a mortgage foreclosure against you if you're federally have a federal loan if it's backed. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying if you have a federal loan and you're not currently in foreclosure, you're just behind or whatever, or feel like you're going to be behind. If you have a federally backed loan, then you qualify for a forbearance, and that means what?
Well, it may be a forbearance, but a forbearance is a little bit different, but this is somewhat of a moratorium in a way against the foreclosure, meaning you just cannot go forward to foreclosure. But for forbearance, what they are doing is a lot of mortgage companies are entering into forbearance agreements. Those have a teeth on both ends, because just like the rent, that mortgage is not forgiven. I have not seen the guidelines for what should happen after the forbearance is over. And I think that's maybe where the law is lacking, to say if in fact that person at the end of 6 months hadn't paid any mortgage payments for 6 months, well, is that 6 months mortgage going to get put on the end? Do they want it all there in the 7th month? Do they want it all in 3 months? So I've seen a little bit of all of it. I'm thinking that bankruptcy might end up, and it's sad to say, but bankruptcy might be the way for people to go if they have been backed up by the forbearance. You know, it's great while it's going on. You don't have to pay anything, but it's going to come to an end.
Right. And at some point, you're going to have to, Maxine put up the knowyouroptions.com loan lookup. That's one website.
That is one. And listen, let me just give a shout out to Miss Maxine Moses. That's my paralegal, you guys. You know, she's on the doggone it, you know. So, yeah, but that's exactly right. Know your rights, know your options, and go on, and you can figure out whether you have a federally backed mortgage.
Right. And that's something you want to know now, because if you do, then you qualify for some of these federal programs. Maxine also put up loanlookup.freddiemac.com.
Right.
We're talking to Attorney Eddye Lane with Lane Law. We're finding out what your rights are if you are a homeowner or a renter. And, a lot of people are really going through a time right now having, lost income due to the pandemic. And coming up next, Edie's going to tell us about this new stimulus package. Well, it includes more than just a check and money for vaccines. We're going to find out from Edie what it means to you as a homeowner or renter, plus more about what your options are as a homeowner versus bankruptcy. Also, someone had a question. We've got a couple of questions. Miss Deborah Williams, I think it is. Let me see who this is. Yeah, Miss Williams, I see your question. We're going to come back in just a minute and answer your question. Hey, don't forget, too, that we are giving you a copy of this Dash for Good Health Southern Soul Cookbook and a Coping with COVID face mask. So if you want one, you can certainly get it. All you have to do is put in the chat that I want a Dash for Good Health. Give us your email address and we will email you or inbox you and get your mailing address and get that out to you. It's a Dash for Health Southern Style Cookbook and a Coping with COVID face mask from In It Together SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, and Coping with COVID. We'll be right back with Attorney Eddye Lane coming up next. I'm Tre Tailor.
Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic, and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by SCDHEC. Visit scdhec.gov for an updated list of testing and vaccination sites and info to help protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Visit columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, visit Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. The Comet Bus System, a fast, fun, friendly transit system that can take you anywhere you want to go in the Midlands. So don't miss your shot. Catch the Comet and get a free ride to get your COVID vaccine. Visit catchthecomet.gov. Javis Tax Services, South Carolina's premier full-service financial provider with over 20 years of experience. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. And Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. Call Daniel for honest, professional, reliable, and knowledgeable computer sales and service. Coping with COVID from SCDHEC. In It Together, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Services, the Comet Bus System, Palmetto Media Connections, Javis Financial Services, and Computers Unique.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
The doctor, a living legend.
Hello, this is Julius Dr. J. Irvin. One thing I have in common with some of the other Hall of Famers, we were never afraid to take the big shot.
West throws it up.
And today is no different.
Good.
I'm getting vaccinated for my family, friends, and community. Let's do this together. For more information on the vaccine, visit cdc.gov.
Visit Javis Tax Service today, 803-419-1001.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday life, but when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821. 821-5821.
You're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic, information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you so much for joining us. Please continue to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses, because many people are having a financial strain and their mortgage is one of those things that are really affected. And today we're talking to Attorney Eddye Lane. She has some 30 years working with people in the areas of bankruptcy, consumer law, personal injury, and Social Security disability. And she's been sharing with us some of the things that we need to know as a renter or a homeowner. I want to shout out again, Patricia Moore-Hannigan. She just summed it up. Thank you so much, Ms. Hannigan. I got to hire you as a as a producer or something. I don't know. She says, are you behind or late on your rent or mortgage? Is it a health issue? Yes. First, you must try to get help. Document you try to get help. You get a moratorium until June. Thank you so much. I want to say hi to Samantha Gleason. Miss Samantha, please put your email address in the chat and someone will email you for to get your mailing address. Just email your email. Just put your email address in there. Someone will email you to get your mailing address, and we'll get that Dash for Southern Style Soul cookbook out for you. And thank you so much for watching Coping with COVID. So, Edie, we were talking a little bit about bankruptcy, I guess, versus, from eviction or foreclosure. Are there other alternatives to bankruptcy?
Yes, I would certainly say first reach out to the mortgage company to see what they may have to offer. Lots of the mortgage companies have what's called a loss mitigation department. That's LOSS, loss mitigation department. And they may have something as far as modification, possibly. In some modifications, they may reduce your interest rate. They may take what you're behind and put it on the back end. Now, this is a process, so it's not a phone call and then boom, it happens. It's almost like a refinance with your own mortgage company. So, be ready to provide your documentation of your income, they want bank statements, and just to know basically what's your ability to actually pay this in the future. So contact your mortgage company, say, could I speak to someone in the loss mitigation department? I'd like an application packet and send that off. So that's a possibility. It may take a couple of months for that to happen. Also, now don't do a short sale. So a lot of people don't know what a short sale is. Don't engage or say you want a short sale if you want to keep your house. So a short sale is basically the mortgage company is allowing a third party to purchase your home for less than what you owe, and you get to walk away somewhat. What may happen, and this is an example of what happens in a short sale. It could be good and it could be bad. Some people just sometimes want to just walk away. They might be upside down and I just can't handle it anymore. Let me just sell it and move along. Now, if there's a difference, let's just suppose it's a $100,000 house. Somebody buys it for $60,000. Well, there's $40,000 left out there owed. What happens to that? Some mortgage companies will say, hey, you know what? We're treating this like income to you. So you're going to get a 1099 for $40,000.
Wow.
Taxes on that. Yes. So you don't want to necessarily do that. Now, if you're in bankruptcy and you do that, that $40,000 gets discharged. So it doesn't follow you around. And you don't get that 1099 to say, oh, you got income. So a lot of people don't understand the 1099. It's like, I didn't make $40,000, so I didn't make this extra money. But money that's forgiven is treated like income by the IRS, and you will get taxed. So don't do a short sale without talking to someone to see if that's good for you.
We're talking to Attorney Eddye Lane. She is with Lane Law in Columbia, South Carolina. 30 years experience working with folks with consumer health, Social Security disability, consumer law, personal injury, and areas of bankruptcy. And we have been talking about your rights as a renter or homeowner. Let's talk a little bit about the stimulus packages. First, the CARES Act of last year. What protections were put in place through the CARES Act? And this was, again, last year.
Well, with the CARES Act, of course, there was the housing. That was the initial, federally backed multi-unit homes, places, apartments, etc. And I'm sorry, we're having a flyover from Shaw Air Force Base. So I don't know.
I was wondering what that.
It flies right over my house. But basically, it's pretty much the same thing. So you had the housing for the apartments. Of course, that ran out late in the fall last year, and some things started happening. So foreclosures and evictions started happening again. So basically, it's just back. It's just the same thing. So the same thing with the housing. The CDC, of course, is sort of taken over the issues regarding the rent, and the CARES Act is dealing more so with the federally backed mortgages. So keep in mind now, if your apartment complex has a federally backed loan, and that's how they're surviving, because understand, all of these apartment complexes are not by private developers. Okay,
Right.
they have getting some government money. They qualify under that, or basically they're restricted as well not to engage in those evictions. But keep in mind now, you just can't sit at home and go like, hey, you know what, the CARES Act covers me, etc. You have to make contact with that mortgage company to say, I'm opting, exercising my rights under the CARES Act, etc. Can't foreclose, etc. Each state still may have some different things going on. Sometimes our Supreme Court last year basically got ahead of the game and said no foreclosures in South Carolina for a period of time. But other than now, I think all the private ones are back on. So you just have to sort of figure out where you are, what you need, and where to go to. But you can live in one state and have a different result.
Well, you mentioned that those apartment complexes, some of them have those federally backed loans. Is that something we can also look up at this Know Your Options?
Know Your Options. That's in your Know Your Options, right? And you can put in the name of that complex and or I believe the address, and it'll let you know whether it has a federally backed loan. So definitely want to do that. KnowYourOptions.com.
All right. And of course, that website is up there. If you're just joining us, Attorney Eddye Lane was talking earlier in the last segment about finding out if you have a federally backed loan on your home. Do you know if you do? Or are you like me and you're just paying every month to the bank? You don't know who owns your mortgage.
That's right.
I just pay your house. So I just want to pay whoever's going to make sure that I can stay here next month. So
That's right. That's right.
Go to this website and also this website that Attorney Lane's legal assistant has up, KnowYourOptions.com, loan lookup, and also the loan lookup.Freddie Mac, because there are federal programs in place to help you if you are a homeowner, and if you are living in an apartment that is federally backed, there is help for them and you too. Yeah, there's help for you. Help on the way.
There's help. There's help. And they can also go and visit the website it's called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and it's just CFPB.gov, and go there. Loads of information. They're designed to help to be sure that the banks and lending institutions are treating you fairly. And you can go in there and they provide assistance and provide guidance and rules.
We're talking about saving your home and keeping you in your apartment if you are a homeowner or renter. So many people, billions with a B, are still struggling, I would say, or really concerned about if they will have some place to live, whether they are renting or hold a mortgage due to COVID. So many people are still unemployed. So many people are underemployed. So many people are not sure what their employment status is going to be. But Eddye Lane is here telling us today about all of your various options. Please post and share this information out, because I know you know someone that needs to hear this. Now, this American Rescue Plan, Edie, is the latest stimulus package. And of course, everybody's, excited about the check and the tax credits and the vaccine, rollout plans. But there are some other things that apply to those folks who are renters or homeowners. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, this rescue plan is a bit broader than the CARES Act. The CARES Act really dealt a lot with individuals. This has a lot of broad appropriations for different areas of protection. One big one was homelessness. Another was child care credit and child care assistance, those types of things. So this is money that's going into the agencies or into the states so that they can filter those things out. So there was not a whole lot there that I saw for, per se, individuals. That extension of the CARES Act is the one that really addressed individuals and their rights with housing. But lots of things, if you are a restaurant owner, there's some rescue for restaurant owners. As you know, they were shut down most of last year. So, and there are billions. I kept looking at all the zeros in those appropriations, billions and billions of dollars, especially for the homelessness projects and things like that. So, I would suggest it's 242 pages. Of course, it has an index. Go down and see what it is that could help you. There's something there with student loans. We don't have a global student loan forgiveness program yet. I think it's something in the works. There was a proposal that everybody across the board get a $10,000 cut on their student loans. Somebody else has come back and go like, we think it should be $50,000, but nothing's there right now. I think things are moving. So I'll say for people to hold tight and keep your ear to the ground about those student loans, because I've seen some, people with degrees of BA or BS, over $200,000 of the debt. Is just ridiculous. How will they ever pay that?
Pay that back,
and then how will they pay it back? But what's in that Relief Act, in that rescue plan, is that if you were duped by some educational institution, there is a forgiveness of that student loan under that appropriation. So there's lots of money there for that, and at least a right to get a forgiveness. And I do want to point out too, for folks, because a lot of people have possibly become disabled because of COVID or for other things. Other things were rampant when COVID was going on, strokes and heart attacks and all types of things. Under the old law and the current law, if you become disabled after you have obtained a student loan, there is a waiver form that you can fill out, and you just need to attach the proof that you've been determined disabled, either by Social Security or your doctor's statement, and the student loan's gone. So that's something else.
Say that again.
If you become 100% disabled,
okay,
after you have gotten your student loan, there is a form to fill out to request a waiver of the repayment, and you just attach your document if you were deemed disabled by Social Security, or you have a doctor's statement that will pass muster. Attach it, send it in, and your student loan's gone.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you're right. A lot of people have become disabled due to COVID. So, I know that's another thing that's, really a big interest. And I'm actually trying to book somebody to come on and break down the CARES Act, what it means for different people, because the student loans is one piece, that child care credit is another piece. There's so many things in there that people don't even, it is a lot. And it's great. Unless you don't know until you don't know about it.
That's right. And farmers too. I was very impressed about the money that's there for foster care kids to avoid homelessness for them, and to create programs. So, if you guys are out there and you're entrepreneurs, or you have agencies or programs that you think could fit into one of these, go check out that money and get out there and help the community to avoid that homelessness for everybody. It's lots of money in that appropriation, and for child care.
All right, Attorney Eddye Lane has joined us today. She is with the Lane Law. She's got 30 years of working with people in the areas of bankruptcy, consumer law, personal injury, and Social Security disability. And we have been talking about your rights as a renter or homeowner. If you want information, you can call her at 803-400-1181 or go to eddielanelaw.com. And And your consultation is free, right? Edie, if people come to you for a consultation, as you said, it's more of a conversation than a consultation. What can you help them with?
Basically, well, first, all consultations are not free, but most of them are. But we certainly will work with people. If you say you saw me on Coping with COVID, we work something out, okay? But basically, in that consultation, we generally will spend, for the bankruptcy, we spend quite a bit of time with that particular person. There are charges for it. But we do give you a credit. If you decide you're going to file, you get a credit for it. So it's almost like it's free. Okay. But basically, each person is different. So we always tell people, you can't say, I know John down the street filed a bankruptcy or he lost his car or he did this. Everybody's case is different because it's about your assets, your income, your debt, and your repayment plan. So this is very unique and custom to you. So basically, we're breaking down to see what we need to do to get a person back on their feet. What is it you want to keep? And a lot of people think, oh, if I file bankruptcy, I'm going to lose everything. South Carolina district has some of the best exemptions in the country. So you're not going to lose. Most people that I have encountered, not lost anything because of bankruptcy. The bankruptcy is designed to help you save your property. And a lot of people don't know that. So they get afraid of it. Go, oh, I don't want to file bankruptcy. I always say it's the last resort, but it's there and it's legal. It's federal law, and people should look into it to avoid losing your property. Don't come to me after the sale. There's nothing I can do about that. Once you get foreclosure papers, get something done ASAP.
Well, let me jump in here for a minute about that bankruptcy thing, Edie. And I want to say this because I know a lot of people. I mean, it is not generational, it's racial because it goes along racial lines. You see a particular section of our population love bankruptcy. They file bankruptcy, get rid of that debt and start something else, and then some folks with a little bit more melanin, we fear, bankruptcy. So it can, so you say, what, don't fear it. It could really help you.
It could really help you. Basically, I deal with two major types. This chapter 7 and the chapter 13. The 7 is for people who just absolutely cannot pay their debts and just need a fresh start and they want to wipe debt out to zero. Now, keep in mind, you cannot wipe out the debt on your car and keep your car, or wipe out the debt on your house and keep your house. That 7 is not for you. That's mostly for people with huge medical bills. They just will never, they've had a catastrophic illness and they just will never, ever get that paid off. Or they might have had just a bad judgment in their life and have huge credit card debt. They just know, I just cannot come back from this. So the chapter 7 for the qualified person would possibly get rid of all that debt and zap them out to zero and they can start over. The chapter 13 people use that to save their homes and to avoid eviction. I will say this, if you file a bankruptcy, file a chapter 13 bankruptcy, and you're trying to avoid eviction, you need to do it before the court has issued an order. So you can't do it afterwards just because you're still in the place. So you want to get somewhere as soon as you start getting legal papers. Don't sit on it. Don't ignore it. Don't be afraid of it. Talk with someone about it.
Yeah, that's good because people do. You become afraid. It's almost like see no evil, hear no evil, evil will come. And more evil comes when you ignore it, right?
Exactly, because there are time limits on it. And you might have heard the old adage that people can sue you for anything. And that's absolutely right. People file lawsuits. If you don't file an answer in court in 30 days, they may have a default judgment against you for whatever it is they asked for, whether it was legitimate or not. So you want to be sure to at least get a response file or get to an attorney and have them look over that. You can sometimes get free consultations, or it's nominal in comparison to what you're going to end up spending to move out of your home. So when you get legal papers, don't hide them, read them.
Yeah,
and talk with someone.
And like you said, read them. And if you don't understand what you're reading, call somebody.
Call somebody.
Your assistant says, do not ignore summons and complaints. Do not ignore summons and complaints.
Do not ignore. And a lot of people think it's a letter. Say, I got a letter from the mortgage company. I got a letter And I said, it's not a letter. It has the court caption on the top of it. That's not a letter. That's a lawsuit. And it'll tell you on the very front, you have 30 days to file a response. Otherwise, default may be entered against you. And I do want to just sort of interject this about HOAs, because a lot of people think the HOAs are, just some side bill or whatever. HOAs can foreclose on you.
Wow.
Just like the mortgage company. And there's a law firm in town that was created just to do that. And they will do it. So you might start out with, $300 biannually. So you're $600 a year. You don't pay it. You hadn't paid it for a few years. Well, the HOA hadn't said a word. Well, one day they're going to send it off to the attorney. And then they're going to say, okay, well, and I'm just making up figures for right now. I don't know exactly what the charges are, but hey, now you owe another $2,000 because we had to try to chase you down and try to get this money. We go like, oh gosh, so had you just paid the HOA fees, etc., you wouldn't be there. But there are lots of foreclosures with the plaintiff as the HOA. They can foreclose, so don't take them lightly. Be in touch with them, get them some payment. Just to, if you can't pay all of it, pay something, but just don't ignore it. They do have rights, just like mortgage companies.
Right. Gary Hunter, thank you for watching. He says they're now paying up to 12 months in Michigan of all bills. Is that through the CARES Act or the American Rescue Act? Gary, thank you so much for joining us. All right. So Eddye Lane, Lane Law, please give her a call. Her contact information is up on the screen if you have a question or just need some information. Again, a couple of these websites, the consumerfinance.gov. That's for what, Edie, just in summary?
Basically, they regulate, just want to be sure that the consumers are being treated properly by the banks and the lending institutions, especially when they're engaging in these contracts. And that might be an agency that would have a list of those federally backed folks as well, or can tell you who you're with. But that Know Your Options is the one you should really go to.
Right. So go knowyouroptions.com/loan lookup. Find out if you have a federally backed loan, because there are some programs available for you. Go to that website to find out if the apartment you're renting is under a federally backed loan, because there are some options for you too. So knowyouroptions.com/loan lookup. Don't forget to check those websites. You were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say also, for veterans, don't forget too, you have rights. Veterans have great benefits, but there are some great separate VA forbearance programs for veterans who you may not have to pay for a period of time, but just get to your federal agency, whoever that may be, and see what they have available for you.
Mm-hmm. EddieLaneLaw.com, 803-400-1181, 800-400-1181. Give her a call if you or someone you know needs some information, has some question. If you are a renter, a homeowner. Also, she does Social Security, disability, consumer law, and personal injury. If you've got a question, she's got the answer for you. EddieLaneLaw.com or 803-400-1181. Edie, thank you so much for joining us today. Just such a wealth of information, and we appreciate everything that you provided to us today, and everything that you do for the community. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, and please keep it on. You're doing a wonderful job, and thank you so much for everything that you do. And thanks again for having me on.
Thank you, Edie. I appreciate you. Eddye Lane from Lane Law, 30 years working with people in the areas of bankruptcy, consumer law, personal injury, and Social Security disability. Again, the information is on the screen, 400-1181, EddieLaneLaw.com. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope with COVID, please go to the Tailor Made production page and inbox me. And we would love to feature you on coping with COVID. Do you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID? Please email copingwithtreTailor@gmail.com. That information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And we would love for you to be a proud sponsor of Coping with COVID, just like In It Together SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Javis Tax Services, Agape Counseling and Training Services, Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, The Comet, and Palmetto Media Connections. Tomorrow, it's Faith Friday. The Lane brothers are going to join us. They were labeled as kids as special needs. They rode the short bus. That's what they said themselves. No disrespect to the folks riding the short bus, but I'm just telling you what they said. And now they have become successful medical professionals. It's a Faith Friday story you won't want to miss. That's tomorrow, right here on Coping with COVID. Next week on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, it's National Walking Day. And we're going to tell you about some great ways you can stay fit and get your walk on. Don't forget about the Dash for Southern Soul cookbook. We're giving it away for you. All you have to do is post in the chat, I want a dash with Southern Soul. We'll get your information and mail it out to you. So don't forget to go ahead and do that. Deborah Williams says there are housing assistant agencies and tenant right agencies throughout the country. There also may be free legal clinics operated by local law schools, legal aid, or other legal assistance entities. Deborah, thank you so much. Yes, we actually mentioned that SC Legal Services and the South Carolina Association of Attorneys, what is it? It's SC Legal and the South Carolina Bar Association has a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. We talk about it every day here on Coping with COVID. Lauren, if you could put that up, so if people need that information, they certainly can. Hey, thank you, Deborah. I've been reading 100 Days of Believing Bigger, and I want to share today's message with you as we close, as we always do. This says, undeniable consistency. The word says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Here's the devotional. It says, I remember when I was a single woman dating and desiring to be married. Dating can be incredibly enlightening. It gives an opportunity to see someone's character, integrity, and personality. But most importantly, it's a chance to evaluate a person's consistency. If someone isn't consistent in your life, they aren't really worthy of your trust. That goes for any relationship in your life. The reality of humanity is that people will disappoint you, and you will disappoint people too, even if you don't intend any harm. We're flawed and imperfect, but Jesus is not. There is no one more selfless, more giving, more attentive, no one more interested in your life than Jesus. His love is perfect, holy, pure, and designed to passionately pursue you every day and in every way. We must be careful not to misconstrue the inherent mystery of God as inconsistency. His love is intentional and ever-changing. Our intimacy with him reveals his consistency towards us. Miracles spring up from the soil of supernatural mystery. The unknown makes way for the unbelievable. That is 100 Days of Believing Bigger. This is Marshawn Evans Daniels. I've heard so much about this devotional. I gifted it to myself, and I am believing God in the next 100 days for something bigger. And can I tell you something? He's already proving it to me. Whew. I'm about to shout right here. Listen, thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. I love you. God bless you. Stay safe. Be well. Get your vaccine. And you still need to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. I'll see you tomorrow.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. Brought to you by SCDHEC. Visit scdhec.gov for testing and vaccination sites. SCDHEC. Healthy people, healthy communities. In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council presenting Wellness Wednesday every week on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Agape Counseling and Training Services. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, visit Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. The Comet Bus System, offering free rides to get your COVID vaccine. Don't miss your shot. Visit catchthecomet.gov. Javis Financial Services, with over 20 years of experience. Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. Honest, professional, reliable computer sales and service. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID from SCDHEC. In It Together SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Services, the Comet Bus System, Javis Financial Services, Computers Unique, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.